I can tell you right now, I don't want to hear any fighting or complaining in the comments about, oh, well, you liked Homecoming or you liked Far From Home. Because, honestly, I mean, like, you can do it, I guess, but I don't care. I'm not gonna engage. It really doesn't matter because guess what? I'm a person and I have my own opinions. Why is my camera trying so hard to focus? Spectacular, 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 spectacular. Spider-Man 2. So Spider-Man 2 is, the second movie in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and the one that I like the middest. I think that this is a very mid film. Every time I move, my camera seems to freak out. So you might just have to bear with that through the rest of this video, unless you just stopped watching because I said the Spider-Man 2 is mid, which I understand. My first biggest problem with the movie is the whole power failure plot line that the movie has, the subplot or whatever. Basically, Peter's powers flicker and fail throughout the movie until he eventually loses them for real, until he gets them back later on, because he's going through some emotional turmoil, which starts because he finds out that Mary Jane is marrying John Jonah Jameson Jr. Even though at the end of the last movie, he told her that he couldn't be with her because of whatever. He didn't say anything about Spider-Man at the time, but he literally told her, hey, I want to be with you, but I can't. And so she went and got with someone else, and now he's so sad that his powers don't work anymore. But it's also really inconsistent because like he'll be swinging, right? And then his webs will turn off. But then he'll fall like 200 feet and not die. And it's like, well, did his durability stay on, but his web stopped working? And then like he tried to climb up the wall and it didn't work, and I'm like, do all of his powers turn off, or do they like? Is it like in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 where certain systems fail at a certain time and you have to reboot them one by one or whatever? Like it's just so weird to me. And also it's like, what? Why are you so upset? You told her that you couldn't be with her. But basically Peter's failing his science class. Which science class? I don't freaking know. I mean, it's being taught by Dr. Connor, so I'd have to assume it's biology. But Harry gets him a meeting with Otto Octavius, and he's going to write a paper on Otto. There was a spider on my desk, and now I don't know where it is. So that's cool. Maybe I'm going to be Spider-Man next. And he's going to write a paper on Otto, and I guess that's going to save his grade. But Otto is very clearly an engineer. He's trying to build a nuclear reactor. So biology class, engineering paper, I don't really understand how that gels together. It's like science isn't just one science. There's a lot of different branches of science, and they're not interchangeable. You can't just, oh man, I need something for my geology paper. Let me write a thesis on Thomas Edison. Like, that's not how it works. You can't just do that. But a bunch of yada 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 happens. Otto tries to demonstrate his reactor with the help of some robotic arms he created that fuse into his spine. The thing blows up. A bunch of people get hurt. His wife dies. Harry's like, oh, I have nothing left because this was all I had going for me, and now I'm just obsessed with killing Spider-Man or whatever, getting my revenge from my father. Harry's character arc is the only one that's really consistent through these movies, which I enjoy that at least. But Harry's basically ruined because he's trying to live up to what his father had with Oscorp, and he can't quite do it as well. So he starts freaking out. I found the spider. This little guy is moving. I'm just gonna leave him alone. So obviously Dr. Octopus is the bad guy in this movie. He's fine. It's just when he's fighting Spider-Man, it's weird because like he's a mere mortal man. Like the tentacles don't make him physically stronger or more durable. So how come Spider-Man can't just and he's just out? you know what I mean? Like Spider-Man's incredibly strong, so why can't he just push him over and he's just out? Just knocked straight out. Like I don't understand that. I've never understood it. Like it isn't even just a sin of the movie, but of the Dr. Octopus character in general. However, at least they said something about that. Like he got head trauma cancer and was about to die, and now he's got a Spider-Man body, so it's not even a problem. But it's like, I don't know, man. Durability is a weird thing in this movie. There's also a bit at the beginning that kind of wastes your time because Peter's a pizza delivery driver, but he also gets fired in that very same scene. So it's like, I guess they just wanted a cold open. But on the topic of the whole Mary Jane situation, she's getting married to somebody else, like very, very soon. The spider has climbed onto my camera. If he walks like in front of the lens. Anyway, I'm getting freaked out. MJ, she's marrying somebody else. Like the wedding is soon, right? And she's talking to Peter about like how, oh, you're not there for me. You don't try as hard as John does. John comes to my plays, blah blah blah. And it's basically like she's giving Peter a handbook on the like as to how to steal her. And I'm just like, what? Why? You're you're getting with someone else. Why does it matter so much? But then Peter, so desperate to be with MJ, starts doing all that stuff. Well, after he loses his powers because he goes to like I guess like the college nurse, and he's like, hey man, I keep having these dreams where my spider powers aren't working, and he's like, well maybe you're not supposed to be Spider-Man, and so he legitimately, stemming from his depression about not being with MJ, just quits being Spider-Man, while Dr. Octopus is on the loose, and he knows he's on the loose because he's fought him already. And then like my least favorite Spider-Man scene in history happens, where Peter gets a hot dog, and then he sees a guy getting jumped in the alley, and just walks away. I know he didn't have powers at the time, so what was he supposed to do? But at the same time, the reason that he doesn't have powers is absolutely stupid and moronic, and I hate that too. But later on in the movie, Otto wants to build a new reactor. The spider's coming towards me. He wants to build a new reactor, and he's like, okay, or Harry's like, okay, I'll get you more tritium, the thing that he needs to power it, if you bring me Peter Parker, or if you bring me Spider-Man, right? Find Peter, he can tell you where Spider-Man is, and bring Spider-Man to me. That's the arrangement. So MJ and Peter meet in this diner, right? This is after Peter has lost his powers. He has no superpowers right now. And they're talking about like, do you love me, Peter? And I'm like, why do you care? You're getting married. MJ is not a very good person in this movie. I mean, it started in the last movie, but goodness gracious. So like they're about to kiss while she's engaged, while the wedding is like in 2 weeks. And so Dr. Octopus, after being told by Harry not to hurt Peter, because that's his friend, picks up a car and chucks it into the diner. And then Peter's power is just activated at the right time, and he saves the day. I hate that scene so much. Why did you throw a car at this mere mortal man? What did you expect him to do? You didn't know he was Peter the Peter Parker of Spider-Man yet. You find that out in the next time you meet. So I'm like, what? What's good with you, bro? Like, what do you mean? By the way, I no longer have eyes on the spider, but they fight, and there's a train, and the brake system gets destroyed by Otto, so Peter has to figure out a way to stop the train. So he does something really stupid. He sticks his foot in the tracks for some reason. I don't know why he did that. But then he rips like 71 buildings open with his web trying to stop the train, and I'm just like, I don't exactly know what purpose this scene serves. There's this really weird bit with his mask because he takes it off, and then 10 minutes later is when he actually stops the train. So I don't know how they found it and brought it to. That's not the important part. I don't really like the train scene either, because like I get it, right? I get the symbolism of him having his arms out like that, but it's like Otto's goal isn't to hurt people. And he makes that very clear because like the tentacles are hurting people and he doesn't like that. So why is it suddenly like, oh yeah, I'll put all these people at risk? And I have no idea how he's going to stop this train. He has no idea how he's going to stop this train. So he's basically sentencing a bunch of people to death. And I don't like that. But Otto shows up after all that happens and just captures Spider-Man and brings him to Harry. Harry takes his mask off, finds out it's Peter, and his whole world is rocked. He's like, you killed my father, you're my best friend, what? And Peter's like, hey, I ain't got time for this. He's got MJ because the bad guys always get MJ in this trilogy. Literally each movie. And I'm not even kidding about that. Like, that's not even my opinion. That's fact. She got captured 3 times. Like, come on now. Maybe 4. 4 if you consider that other scene in Spider-Man 3. But, so he goes to the docks where the new reactor is, and it's like, oh, it's not going to work again, Otto, obviously. And he's like, you're right. My opinion has changed now because I know you're Peter Parker. And so he grabs the reactor and pulls it into the bay and dies. And then MJ leaves her wedding to go get with Peter because she knows he's Spider-Man now. And I guess that changed everything. And he's like, hey, it's still dangerous. And she's like, I'll face those dangers with you until the next movie when I get upset that you're not in my place because you're being Spider-Man in Saving the City. And yeah, that's how the movie ends. Ooh, I really don't like this movie very much. And I know that I'm probably in the minority thinking that way, but once I took off my nostalgia goggles and watched the movie again last year, I was just like, what is this? Why are these things happening? And I've always hated that car. Throwing the car, that was always my least favorite scene in the whole movie, so I don't want to hear anything, all right? That has nothing to do with Tom Holland. That's just a poorly written scene. But with all that having been said, I would go ahead and say that Spider-Man 2 was worth the price of admission back in 2004 when it came out. It's not a horrible movie, and it definitely didn't seem as bad now as it did then when there were no other Spider-Man movies to compare it to, or no MCU. And like the standard for comic book movies was still pretty low because of, Batman and Robin. But yeah, I just don't think it's very solid. But if you like it and you really like it and it's your favorite Spider-Man movie, that's totally fine. You can tell me that in the comments. Just don't tell me I'm wrong because I don't like it. Because I've banned like 150 people since I started this channel, and I'll keep doing it. I really don't care. But I'll see you in the next video because this ran really long.